So let's be honest about where we are right now. Gears of War Reloaded is on the way, and this is a game that's being handed to an entirely new audience. After years of silence, after all the rumors, after all the hope, this is the Gears game that's going to be the very first impression for people on PlayStation. This is the game they're getting. Not E-Day, not something new, they're getting a remaster. And if that sounds underwhelming to you, then you're not alone. Because there's something that's been bothering me since this announcement, and it's been growing louder and louder the more I think about it. What is there in this remaster to actually keep people playing? And I'm not talking about us, the diehard fans who played Gears 1, 2, 3, and Judgment back to back. I'm talking about them, the players on PlayStation and Steam who are going to boot up this franchise out of curiosity. Maybe they heard the name before. Maybe they saw the E-Day trailer and said, hey, that looks pretty damn cool. Maybe they're fans of third-person action and want to see where it all started. But here's the problem. As it stands right now, Reloaded is just a campaign and PvP. And that's not going to cut it. Because those two pillars alone, while legendary in their time, aren't enough to support an ecosystem in 2025. We're in a gaming landscape now where people expect more. They expect to be onboarded. They expect to be with friends, and if you're not immediately sucked in by either the story or the brutality of ranked multiplayer, there's a really good chance they'll just uninstall and move on to the next free-to-play flavor of the week. Now, I'm not saying this to be harsh. I'm saying it because this is exactly what happened to Gears of War Ultimate Edition, and that was with a dedicated fan base. We've seen this story play out before. So what's the solution? Well, we need something that brings in new players. Something that gives them room to breathe. Something that doesn't throw them into sweaty lobbies where they're immediately getting one-shotted by players who've been wall bouncing since the Bush administration. We need a PvE mode. And I know what you're thinking. Well, it's just a remaster, what do you expect? But that's the point. It's just a remaster. They're not redoing the level design. They're not building new multiplayer systems from scratch. They're literally just polishing what's already there. Higher frame rates, better resolution, slightly updated visuals, that's it. So if we're keeping the foundation intact, then why not add something that lets this game have legs? Something that honors the original tone, but also fits modern expectations. And let me just pause here to remind you of something that blows my mind every time I think about it. Back in 2006, Epic Games managed to implement Gears of War's multiplayer in just 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Let that sink in. They were developing on new hardware, building new systems, and still found a way to ship multiplayer within 2 weeks of actual implementation. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. People played it, they talked about it, they got hooked. And here we are almost 2 decades later, still singing the praises of Gears of War because of how well that original formula worked. So if Epic could get that up and running back then, in that little time, you're telling me the Coalition couldn't create a small, self-contained PvE mode that uses existing campaign assets and enemy behaviors to give newcomers something to hold on to? Come on, man. We know it's possible, and it doesn't have to be this massive new feature either. We're not asking for a Horde 5.0 or a full-blown Beast Mode sequel, although that would be pretty damn amazing. All we're asking for is something. Something where 2 or 3 friends can hop into a match, shoot some locusts, get used to the way the game feels, and learn what Gears is actually about before they get thrown into the crucible of PvP. And look, I'm not pulling this idea out of nowhere. This is coming from my own experience too, because my first real intro to the Gears of War series, it wasn't the campaign, it wasn't multiplayer, it was Horde mode in Gears of War 2. That was the mode that hooked me. That was the mode that taught me what this world was, how these weapons felt, and why the Gears universe had a different kind of weight to it than any other shooter I'd played at the time. And that's what a good PvE experience can do. It can ease you in. It can teach you without tutorials. It can make you feel the stakes. I wouldn't be here talking about this franchise all these years later if Horde hadn't existed. And I know I'm not alone in that either. Other Gears creators are saying the exact same thing. I've seen the discussions, I've watched the videos. We all see the writing on the wall. If Reloaded drops with nothing but campaign and versus, it's going to have a spike in players, and then a fast, hard drop-off. Because people aren't going to stay for campaign alone, and most won't stick around long enough to learn PvP unless they already understand how Gears works. We need a pressure valve, something low stakes, something immersive, atmospheric, and brutally satisfying, but forgiving enough to help people learn the flow. And you know what would be perfect for that? using the existing Locust enemies from the campaign. You already have drones, wretches, boomers, and snipers behaving in specific ways. Add a basic AI pathing system, create escalating waves or missions, drop players into known maps like Mansion or Gridlock, and let them survive against increasingly tough squads. You don't even have to call it Horde. Call it something like Horde Elite, Survivor, or Resistance, or something thematic that fits the timeline of Gears 1. You're not building new enemies. You're reusing what's already there. That's smart. That's efficient. That's how you make a remaster feel alive without blowing up the dev timeline. Because right now, Reloaded feels more like a museum piece, a tribute, which is fine if that's all you want it to be. But if the Coalition wants to bring in new blood and actually retain those players instead of having them disappear a week after launch, then we need to give them something more than nostalgia. We need to give them a reason to stay. And PvE is that reason. It's not just about gameplay, it's about respect. It shows that the devs understand that Gears is more than just 4v4 execution on canals. It's a world. It's chainsaw duels, meat shields, underground bunkers, and terrifying creatures that lurk in the dark. Give new players a chance to experience that. Give them a taste of what this franchise is really capable of. Because if we don't, if this thing drops with just shiny graphics and nothing to do beyond campaign and sweaty ranked matches, then this game is going to get buried. No matter how beautiful the remaster is, the moment will pass, and we might not get another shot like this. So yeah, that's where I'm at with it. I want Reloaded to succeed, I really do, and I think it can, but only if we treat this launch like the opportunity it is. Not a celebration of the past, but a chance to reintroduce something powerful to a whole new audience. And if you agree, let me know down in the comments. I actually want to hear your thoughts. Would you play a PvE mode in Reloaded? What ideas would you have for it? Let's get the conversation going. And hey, if you're new here, consider subscribing or becoming a channel member. I talk about Gears a lot and want to keep covering this franchise as long as we have something worth fighting for. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay strong, stay grounded. We'll see you on the battlefield. Peace.